Scoot Henderson has absolutely taken a leap in play recently, and it's something that should make the Blazers start asking some questions about their future rotation and how they should handle the trade deadline. But also, he's making people like me he's proven us wrong. I'm going to be honest. Like, I am surprised to say this, but I think Scoot Henderson is legitimately in the process recently of proving people like me who doubted him and doubted his ability to be a real NBA guy, and certainly a really high level NBA player. He's proven us wrong recently. He is playing like the prospect that he was drafted to be at number 3 overall for the Blazers, and has been very, very impressive recently. 39 points, 4 rebounds, 6 assists, 16 points, 2 rebounds, 6 assists, 21 points, 5 rebounds, and 11 assists. And then tonight, 25.7 rebounds and 8 assists, back-to-back 25 and 5 games at least. Really impressive stuff as of late from Scoot Henderson, having himself a heck of a stretch recently. Now, this is the first stretch like this of Scoot's career, as far as I can really remember, in terms of true consistency at a higher level for a more realistic amount of time, but it's been very impressive to watch. He is currently, in those last 4 games, averaging 25, almost 8, a steal and a half a game, and 57% over 53% from 3. Now, yes, small sample size. Also incredibly elite performance. Those percentages in general are not sustainable, but they are certainly a step in the right direction for him as a player, and for a guy who has had so much struggle, to the point where I made a video sometime in the last month or so, basically saying he looks like a straight up bust. And I think a lot of other people would agree with that perspective as well. This is refreshing to see. It's a guy who, coming out of college, was, I feel like, or not out of college, but coming out of the G League Ignite team, was, I feel like, pretty likable, pretty popular, certainly pretty flashy, and a guy that people expected to be Ja Morant, Derrick Rose, players like that mold of player, even if not quite as successful. He's a player who was expected to be a very high level player and an impact guy, a potential franchise player for the Blazers. He hasn't been that. Recently, though, he finally looks like he's developing into that player, and it's worth noting how young he is, and that maybe we were too quick to give up on him. But what's been interesting, 38 minutes tonight, 8 of 15, 3 of 8 from the three-point line, 25 points, 8 assists, 2 steals. The one flaw I see is the 4 turnovers, and I will say that does seem to be a theme with Scoot Henderson, even in these most recent games. 4 turnovers, 4 turnovers, 3 turnovers, 4 turnovers. In these last 4 games where he's had a bigger role, he's still turned the ball over too much, and that's not ideal. But I do think that as of late, he has been playing better as a whole, and that is a big deal. He's also much closer to over 50% from inside the 2-point arc as of late as well, which has been a real point of growth for him. He's got to be more efficient at the rim, which I think is going to be a big part of his growth as a high-level athlete and a slasher. And then obviously the turnovers are going to need to go down. That's my biggest complaint probably with Scoot as a player, is that assist to turnover ratio as a point guard, 5 to 2.2 to 2.7, isn't really good enough, especially in lower volume where you're not really the primary focus of a defense. Now, the 3-point percentage is up to 35% for the season. That's better than Ja Morant's ever shot the 3. Like, that's progress. 47% at the rim, or inside the 3-point line in general, is not good enough. That has to go up. And so you're going to need to see growth as a whole from him as the season continues. But this is really encouraging. Not only that, this makes me think, I mean, again, Scoot's 20 years old. There is a lot of time and a lot of room for growth still as a player. If I was the Blazers, their future is guys like Scoot Henderson, Shaedon Sharpe, even though he hasn't shot the 3 ball very well this year. Toumani Camara is that 3-and-D, high-level intensity wing. Big men like Donovan Clingan. I mean, those are the guys that are probably going to be here more for the long term. It feels like is that group of 4. Maybe Denny Avdia slot somewhere in there, but he could also be a trade piece. But I feel like guys like Anthony Simons, Denny Avdia, who I already mentioned, Rob Williams, DeAndre Ayton potentially, although I'm not a fan of Ayton as a player, in all honesty. He can be real lazy. When he's locked in and playing well, he can be a really good player. And there are flashes of the reason he was chosen number 1 overall, but he's just never been able to, it seems like, execute at a high enough level and take the game quite seriously enough on a night-to-night basis to really be great. But there's been real growth as a whole. I mean, even Chris Murray, in his 14 minutes a game, he is, oh no, I'm sorry, that is the wrong stat. I was looking at field goal percentage, not 3-point percentage. He has not shot the ball well. But as a whole, there's some growth here with this youth. I would trade Shaedon Sharpe. I don't think he realistically is quite on the same financial or just age timeline as a lot of these other guys. I think he is very much serving as a bit of a roadblock for Scoot Henderson's development as a point guard. He is not a much better playmaker, in all honesty, in terms of assist to turnover ratio and things of that nature than Scoot is. And the fact he's only averaging 18 a game and 32 minutes a game, not highly elite efficiency, like his numbers compared to Scoot's are not that much better. And I just realistically don't see him as being, he's actually 5 years older. Financially, his timeline is not as favorable for a tanking team, and he's going to be more expensive. I just think he should be gone. And I think that between Anthony and Denny and these other bigs and assets that they have, they can probably acquire a couple of first round picks. Like they could acquire some interesting real value that will give them the ability to try to build toward the future, because this team isn't doing it. A team with your best player being, I literally don't even know on a night-to-night basis. Sometimes it's Anthony Simon. Sometimes it could be Jeremy Grant if he's playing well and healthy. Sometimes Shaden Sharp. Recently, it's been Scoot Henderson. But a team like this isn't set up really well to be a real competitor, especially in a tough Western Conference. But in general, this is not a competitive roster right now. They have to acquire assets so that they can begin to truly build that core. And the idea, obviously, being that Scoot and Shaden can be at least like second and third stars on a contending team, if not even like potentially higher than that. And so I think you have to, in a year like this year, where you're already bad, you're already way out of any sort of playoff discussions whatsoever, and you want to have a top 4 pick, you want like a franchise altering type pick, it does them nothing but benefit right now to make some trades, get rid of Simons, get rid of other guys who are going to be, I think, more useful for them winning, and give a guy like Scoot the ability to continue to develop, see if he can continue to potentially develop that playmaking ability, keep the percentages decent as they have been recently, and enable him to be a higher volume player while still being effective. The way that he has been recently has been so refreshing for a player, for a guy. I thought Scoot Henderson was going to be better than Brandon Miller coming out of the draft. I'll be honest, I did. To this point in their careers, I was absolutely wrong, but Scoot's resurgence recently is starting to make me believe that there is more there, I think, than I was starting to think there was, is basically what I will say. So been very encouraged and impressed by Scoot Henderson's growth recently. Will it continue? Honestly, that I have no idea. I really don't have a ton of confidence I don't really have a ton of confidence that it's going to 100% continue, but I certainly have the confidence that it is possible for it to continue. And for the Blazers' sake, they certainly hope he is. I'll just say that. And you know what? It'll be interesting to follow this Blazers season, if nothing else, just to see where they end up in the tank situation. Like, let's say they got Cooper Flag. Oh my goodness, he would fit so well on this team with a couple of young potential star guards and interesting pieces. Like, this is a team that could very much benefit from some top tier draft assets this season. And this is going to be a fascinating rest of the season for the Blazers, just because of that, I think, pursuit of tanking at this point, but also the player development that needs to continue to occur for them to be a real contender here in a few seasons. So with that being said, that's going to do it for the video. I hope y'all did enjoy. If you did, make sure you hit that like button, leave a comment, and subscribe. I'll be back with more NBA content very, very soon. I appreciate y'all. Peace.